All right, legends, we have ourselves a shortened week here. Given it's already Tuesday, we still don't have round results, so hopefully in the time it takes me to make this video, we do have a lockout lift and we can get in and make changes to our team and obviously have a look at the next 3 rounds, which is the big focus here for our teams. And round 15 is going to be a little bit harder than we may have thought, but we're back to full programming and full amount of teams with the Dogs on the bye there. For anyone holding on to Fuller, like myself, you're still going to be dealing with him, likely to be out. We've got Galvin, who'll be rested at least this game and may even be for round 16. We'll have to find out about that one. So there's a couple of things to deal with, and then potentially Atkinson losing his spot to Trindle. If you're dealing with any of the injuries, like if Twali, we did get some good news for Twal owners there that he's been cleared of any major damage and is a chance to play this weekend. But if he doesn't, then with the King, Hughes, Salmon, all these mids being out this week, could be a little bit tough for your sides. We'll have to see how that one plays out. Hopefully for your sake he does make it. For my sake, I hope that he misses this 1 week and then he can be back for you in round 16. I think that's fairly fair on that front. But yeah, there's a few things to think about heading into round 15 with obviously those injuries to Preston as well, which you knew you would have been out anyway. Preston, Curran, these types of guys there as well. So round 15 is going to be a fun one. Let's go through each of the teams there with their next 3 games in their thoughts. And I'll go through my planning once we get through the round results video there. But the Tigers, for the next 3 weeks, they've got a light green little run there, the medium tier run. Blue is the better run, and then the red is the tougher run for the next 3. So for the Tigers there, it's Titans, Raiders at home, into Roosters away. So it gets a little bit harder from round 17 and 18. And round 17 will be a backup week for Origin guys. Round 18 will be a standalone there for the Storm, with likely Pap to have returned. Munster, not so much yet, but yeah, it's going to be a fun little run for Tigers. And I do think outside backs, not that we really are going to be owning any of them, especially with Galvin being out too, but those forwards should be able to potentially get some attacking stats as well. The odd tackle break, maybe a few less missed tackles, depending on who they come up against. And I'm very glad to be owning Samuela Fainu there, rather than Seyfarth coming up against Dave Fafita, rather than come up against Beau Fermor or Cleese Haas or something like that, that's for sure. So that's where you'd be looking at with the Titans if, thankfully Twal's not out, but I still think their middles and those 2 edges there are good little purchases to look at. Apparently Bateman's not too far away now, a few weeks now, maybe 3 weeks or something like that. So if you are looking at Seyfarth, just be aware of that. And if you're looking at their middles, not a problem there at all. Titans are up next, so Tigers away into the Warriors at home, so a fairly solid little draw. If you were looking at someone like Jaden Campbell, just be aware that it's probably he will probably likely end up back at fullback, but for how long? With AJ Brimson to return in about 3 or so weeks, where does he fit into this? Where does Tanner Boyd fit into this as well? Does he come back into the halves, or do they stick with what played out on the weekend? Not that it helped them win a game, but Campbell was able to score really well and get his hands on the footy at 6 and make some good tackles as well. So that's someone to look at. I don't think Fafita will be making Origin, so I think he's still a fairly safe pick this week if you want to jump on him. Obviously, he can, in games where he's at 14 at half time, still end up at 63, which is very, very helpful there as well. But for more, the chances of him playing centre too regularly, it does hurt, but he has scored well in both his previous games, now playing and starting in the centre position, so keep that in mind. Outside of that, forwards, probably not where you want to be getting at the moment. Cleese Haas is a little bit too hit and miss, and he gets a 30 into a 68, that type of range for him. So it'd be Campbell and then waiting on someone like Brimson later on. But we know they have a really good run, obviously just a bye left in round 17. Dolphins, here we go. So this is the one where they're through 2 of their really important buys, and then round 18 is going to be a lot easier to get through, that's for sure, given it's a standalone. All the Origin guys will be back and playing. So guys to target in this one, Ewan Aitken, very, very easy one to target here. Very expensive at that, in the high 700s, but is scoring incredibly well. Dual position, someone that I own personally, and I think a lot of you guys should as well. They have a fairly tough 2 games, especially a little bit easier in the third, but I do think it's 2 away games and a home game makes it a pretty tough run. Sharks into Storm there. Won't really affect Aitken too much. He's just really good on the base stats. Lemuelu is another one you could look at. I wouldn't be looking at Hammer just yet. You'll get, obviously, 1 game out of him here and round 18 you'll still miss. So you miss 16, 18, 19. Not ideal still there on that front. In terms of other guys to look at, TPJ is going to be around. He's actually ill as to why. Apparently there's a lot of people turned up to watch him at training yesterday or the day before. So very interesting that. But yeah, not a lot of other guys at the Dolphins I'll be looking at this stage. Just really it's Aiken and Lemuelu, the two edges. A lot of middles. Hard to work out now if you want to buy like a Plath with TPJ coming in and unsure of minutes and stuff like that. So there you go. That's the Dolphins. For the Storm, a fairly mid-tier run with Warriors away into Dolphins away. Yeah, two fairly hard matchups into an easier one with the Raiders at home there for Storm. I'm going to have to very heavily look at Tyron Wishart now that we've got a potential out next week in Galvin, and Slash I need to, could use another, I'll have to use another half for a wing fullback at this stage it looks like. So if Galvin is out, so Wishart is on my list potentially for Sam Hughes as that mid-tier guy that's still going to get around 15, 16, 17, 18. So at least 4 more games. And who knows if Munster's going to be around for that third origin. It's unlikely at this point and likely to be back, I think, in round 20. But if he's not, then you get Wishart for round 20 and he'd be a sell there anyway for a top-tier gun. That's where you're at with him. If you want to grab Jerome Hughes, still a great week to get him. In terms of outside backs, not so much. Eli Katoa had a lower week and he'll drop a little bit in price, but overall is still a good purchase. Blory, just hold for now and see what happens. Hopefully you're playing him in round 16 as one of your edges, but if you don't need him, then I understand too, but maybe he's a sell come 19 if he happens to continue scoring around that 40 mark, or 20 odd and then a 41. Not super satisfying, but not the biggest sell in the world, that's for sure, with trades being so low for people. Sharkies up next. They got Dolphins into their second bye of the year, so they miss round 16 and round 20. So if you've got the odd Shark player that you're not super keen on, then holding this week and then potentially moving on in round 16 could be a play. Have a look at your numbers. They do help in round 19, obviously, which is going to be a fairly tough one with a lot of really relevant teams on that bye. And you need to look at your trades situation as well, because if you run out of trades come 17 or 18, you're going to need that type of player for 19 without using a trade there in that one. So keep an eye out on that. Obviously, it's Nikora. Some people might look at Talakai after that really good score this week. If you've moved on Hines, if you've got Atkinson, these types of players there to have a look at for sure. Britton Nikora, as I said, there in that one. But yeah, 2 buys in the next 6 games. Yeah, 2 in the next 6. 2 in the next 5. Panthers missed there. They've got Knights away here into the bye, into that Cowboys home game, which is going to be pretty fun as well. So if you've got some attacking players, obviously the Coles, if you've got Isaac Tungo, hopefully this one against the Knights is a better sort of run for him, but he may be coming up against Bradman Best, Greg Marzou, so it may not be the easiest clash anyway, even though the Knights are leaking some points for sure. So keep an eye out on that. If you're holding on to Alamotti, then that's sweet. You should get a couple of good games in the next few. But yeah, I wouldn't be looking to actively purchase any Panthers, given they missed 16 and 19 in the next 5 weeks there. 2 very important buys. Rabbitohs, they're up next. So they've got the green there with Broncos and Eagles before their bye. So, slightly harder, but also Broncos and Eagles are letting in points and they're not winning all their games as well. And Rabbitohs are improving. So something to look at there, that they've got the bye in round 17. They do have, and then they're done for the year, which is pretty exciting there for the Bunnies. So if you're looking at Whiten, he wasn't great until sort of a flurry of points in the back end. So just be aware of that. Base stats might be up a bit if they're not scoring a truckload of points, but also Latrell Mitchell was doing the bulk of that general play kicking for their team, and then White a little bit, and obviously Cody Walker a little bit as well. So yeah, a couple of tougher matchups. We'll see how that plays out for Whiten, for example. Latrell, I know if you didn't buy him last week, I don't know if you can buy him this week with it being 1 game closer to if he makes Origin. He misses 16, 17, and 19 there. So that's something to look at with the Bunnies. And in terms of their forwards, we're likely to get Cam Murray back either this week or next week. So yeah, probably not looking at any of their forwards either. For the Doggies, they've got a bye this week. The main culprits for a sell, I do think, is just Hughes and Salmon. Outside of that, if you got Curran, it looks like he should be fine to come back in round 16. He was walking around okay, but obviously things can happen in post game, in hours, after the game, overnight. things like that. But if we get the all clear on him before the start of this week, which I think we'll be able to get some idea, he's likely to be back in round 16, where they do have a bit of a harder run. But for middle forwards like him, very, very important to this side. I'd be holding on through this bye, along with Preston's going to be the hard one. If it is actually a fracture in his ankle, then he will be a sell. It will be anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks, which is probably a little bit too much, given if it's 4 weeks, it's very much likely he misses 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 there for the doggies, which is a bit too tough to kind of hold on to, I think, in my opinion there. Maxi King, a hold. He had a throat infection, actually. There was a little bit of chatter pre-round that he was battling with something and might be taken out of the side, and sounds like that was the actual reason. So that's why he was gassed. And he actually played more minutes than he has the last few weeks. So there you go for Maxi King. And Karazi obviously holding as well. Eels, you've got the Roosters into that bye, and they're the same situation as the Sharkies. A bye in round 16 and 20. So again, if there's outside of like Brendan Hands, I don't know too many guys from the Eels that I'd be looking to target. If you grabbed Kelmer to Alangi last week, then you get a good price rise this week. Same with Hands. Could you buy him knowing Lussig's kind of hanging around anytime there's some type of injury? We see the backup hooker come onto that bench from 18th or 19th man. So he only played the 10 minutes. Hands got a bit of a lower game, but did include some attacking stats in offloads, a turnover tackle, a couple of tackle breaks as well. So if that didn't come into the game, he could have been a 20 odd. And it's just a very similar situation to that of Lussick, to be fair. They both kind of score similarly in the roles that they end up getting. And Lussick kind of went backwards this year, but historically he was able to score well. But it seems to be this, Lussick came out and got a couple of good games this year, and then he went back, down the toilet. And then Hands was a little bit of a lower score, but he's at 270, not 500k when we're buying Lussick. So he's the main one to look at. Brown's a hold, Moses is a hold. All the guys, just wasn't a great scoring game for them, and hopefully against the Roosters, it's going to be a tougher clash, but hopefully ball stays in play, and there can be good points for all of you holding Eels players like Penasini and the like there. Raiders, they come up against Cowboys, the Tigers into the Storm, so a pretty nice draw, to be fair. Home game to start against the Cows. They should be able to score well. We welcome back Weeks and Strange and Smithies, or these types of players there. Joe Tarpany is a really, really solid mid option if you're looking for one this week, and we'll speak about him in the team list, the Savo as well, so keep an eye out on them. That's probably it for the Raiders, but a nice Cowboys-Tigers Storm run here. Really, really solid first 2 games, and then gets harder from there. Dragons, they have that 16 and 20 bye as well, so you got one more game out of them. Again, really no one from the Dragons I'd be looking to target, but they've got the Eagles this week, which, Lomax should still be able to score okay again, so it'll be fun, him against Talau. And then the bye into Dolphins, Roosters, Broncos, so bye, and then Panthers, Storm. So they got a pretty tough run for the next sort of 8 weeks there. Knights, Panthers they have this week, so that'll be pretty fun. But if you think Fletcher Sharp's taken his spot, then maybe Fletcher's the guy to go for. Outside of that, no one you really should be targeting. Just hold KPP, hold Lucas, hold Elliott again. These types of players there. Just it's all holds this week. But the run's not too bad for them. Following that, Eels, Raiders, Eagles. So that's all right. And they play 19, they play 20. So super important there. Probably sell them in around 21. Brayley's the worry this week, but hopefully against the Panthers, he plays some good minutes, and maybe they'll prepping him for the tackle barrage that he's going to cop next week against the Panthers. And I'm hoping that's the case. Broncos, next up, they've been through one bye now, which is cool. So they miss 16 next week, but they play 19-20, and then have a later bye as well. The Bunnies this week into the bye, into the Warriors, Panthers, Dragons over that next little period. Panthers is a standalone week, which is annoying for him. But overall, the run kind of gets a little bit easier following that. Dragons, Knights, Dogs, Titans, which is pretty cool there as well. So I think Pia Curry holding on to. Ezra Mam, you're probably still holding on to at this point. Outside backs, who are you holding on? Cobbo, I think hold on again and see what happens after this week. For the Eagles, they've got Dragons into Rabbitohs, so still a really solid run there. A bye, and then you got Cowboys, Knights, Titans, Roosters. So this was the run I was looking at for Garrick. People are asking questions around Tolu Kola. Completely up to you. If we do see Lehigh Hopewade in that fullback slot again, I do think that Kohler is definitely not a guy you want at center. We've seen that across his career. He hasn't got a very high average at center. So definitely someone you don't want to be looking to hold on to too much. But again, do you just hold on because he plays that important round 16, 19, and 20? Or do you think that his scoring's not going to be good enough? Because some games you'll see this year he got 30s and 40s, and then other games he's down to 20 and 11 last game. So not ideal, but it was up against Panthers as well, and it will be easier slightly against the Dragons anyway in this one. And their run's not too bad, so it could just be, some games he'll score tries and do good things. They look pretty good down the left-hand side, obviously, with Tommy Talau scoring 4 tries. The Wires obviously been playing much better. We will see SJ return, so have a look at him. But Storm into Titans and Broncos. A couple of slightly easier ones. There still should be lots of points on offer across all 3 of those games. So do have a look at those guys. A lot of their forwards are kind of just cannibalizing each other. We did see Barnett do pretty well. Tohu Harris is getting less minutes. Adam Fanua-Blake continues to score tries. So if you want Adam, definitely wouldn't push you away from him. He's got the same bye schedule there, apart from the bye at the end of the year, as the Raiders there with Joe Tarpane. Just plays 1 extra game from this point on, then Adam Fanua-Blake. Alrighty, that's the Wires really. Tamati Martin, hopefully, 6 in his side, which I think he'll play 6. Roosters, they come up against, they got through their round 14 bye, which is really helpful. They've got the Eels, Dogs, Tigers, and the Dragons, but they do have a bye later on in the year. So if you are looking at Roosters players, they still miss 2 more games, but the next little run is pretty good with the Eels, Bulldogs, and the Tigers there. So if you're still holding Terrell May, awesome. We might see Connor Watson return, but does he make Origin? That's the question mark there. It's a throat injury, so it's a little bit of a out there one where he should hopefully be able to train pretty well. And it was just contact around that throat that you wanted to obviously let heal. So yeah, Roosters, if you're holding Angus, hold him for 1 more week, obviously, and then decide in round 16, or, you obviously can back up 17 and 18 for you and do good things. Tedesco, obviously great. Manu, really good purchase this week if you want to spend up to get him with a pretty solid little run. And then the Cowboys there, you've got Raiders into their first bye of the year, so they'll miss 16, 19, and also 25. Yeah, 25 as well. So that's something to note if you're looking at Cowboys guys. That good chance that they'll definitely be missing 3 games. And is that something you want from a keeper? If you're holding on to like a Drinkwater, then maybe he's worth just keeping for the entirety of the year. Finefeuaki and these types of guys might be worth moving on at some point. Same with Helam Lukey, but I do think it might be around 19 for someone like Lukey. Finn off the bench, if it's likely to happen this week, then maybe he's a sell, either this week or next week in round 16. If you're trying to get numbers on the park, then play him this week, get rid of him in 16. There in that one, if you went for Griffin Neem and these types of players, then that will be the time to get rid of those guys. If you're still holding on to Robson, you'll get 80 minutes out of him this week, which will be really cool as well. So just want to get that one out, guys. The next 3 little rounds there, who you need to be looking at. Obviously, those guys there, the Dolphins, the Raiders there, and the Roosters got through another bye, which means that they have a good little run of games. Dolphins are really, really set up there. Play 16, 17, 19, 20, which is really cool. You do see the Raiders only missing 19 from here on in. And obviously, what are they talking about there? Roosters. Yeah, Roosters just missed 19 as well, which is helpful. And then that one further by later on. So yeah, that's all I wanted to go through in this one, guys. Keep it short and sweet. Thanks for being here for this one. We've got the round results to come. Once they, lockouts lifted, we'll go through that and my general plans, spreadsheet, what I need if players are out and stuff like that. And then we'll get team lists this afternoon and we'll roll into all of our awesome content for the rest of the week, heading into our first game for round 15, which will be very, very soon in the next few days. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in that next one.